Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Blizzard Watch podcast. I'm Matt. I usually host this thing, although not last week. And thank you to everybody here who basically covered for me and allowed the show to continue. Before we go any further and introduce people and so forth, Liz, you wanted to do a Patreon thing, and for once, I want to remember to mention it at the beginning of the show. So,
okay, yes. Hello, everyone. I'm glad you're here listening with us. I wanted to remind you that Blizzard Watch is made possible due to listeners like you supporting us on Patreon. This month, our Patreon fell a little under $4,000. We try to keep it over $4,000 to keep everything stable. It's not an emergency panic, oh my god, but kind of that number is that's our happy place. We try to stay 4,000 to 4,500 on Patreon. That's a good, stable place for us. So if you are able to toss in $1 on Patreon, toss in $3 on Patreon, $3 gives you early access to these podcasts, $5 gives you ad-free on the Blizzard Watch site, and all of your support lets us do more content, like more tabletop content, more Dragon Age content. I apologize if you do not care for those things, but we have been doing some of both, but also more guides and information on World of Warcraft. All of these things are made possible because of your support. So I understand not everyone has the cash to do this. Support us. Listening to the show, sharing the show with friends who might enjoy it, linking the website. All of that helps. We appreciate moral support as well. So anything you can do for us really helps. Please go to patreon.com/BlizzardWatch if you can toss us a little extra. It really, really helps. So thank you all so much for being here.
I want you to imagine an extremely cute child with huge eyes looking up and going, "Please, sir, can we have some more?" Because that's what we're doing here. So anyway, that was Liz. Liz is the EIC of Blizzard Watch and overall Grand High Poobah. Also with us are Joe Perez, who is our sort of ombudsman, does pretty much everything, and Phil, who is our guest host, I guess. Say hi, Phil. We did this on the pre-show. Never mind. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm going to do it anyway. Hi, Phil.
Yeah, you can't stop me.
I'm going to make the bad joke. It's happening now.
We've gone too far.
But anyway, so yeah, we've got a fair amount of stuff to talk about, some of which is interesting to me. So, some of it isn't. But, one thing is, tiny Yeti with a present on its back. Let's talk about this right now. Liz,
that's important. So yes, there are some new Winter's Veil rewards this year coming. It is, you may have noticed that it is only November. We're halfway through, but some new Winter's Veil rewards have been data mined, and it includes a tiny Yeti pet who is carrying a little present on his back, held onto him with a bright red ribbon. It's adorable, and I mean that's really it. We don't know if it is going to be. I suspect it's going to be under the Christmas tree this year. Under the Winter Veil tree, I'm sorry. So, but that's it. That's all we know. I wish we knew more.
All we need to know.
Yeah, that really, really it is. It's like, I'm going to log on and get this little baby Yeti.
Yep.
What else do you want?
I'd want the cat with Horde-style armor to also have a pet.
More baby Yetis. Maybe Yetis that are petting cats.
They've had other Yetis, but this is the best baby. This is the best baby Yeti, possibly the only baby Yeti. We do know a little bit more. It is currently flagged as dropping from the quest "You're a Mean One," which I believe is the daily.
Well, there you go.
The daily to go kill the abominable Grinch in the Arathi Highlands, I think, wherever he's at these days.
I think he used to be Arathi. I don't know if he's.
It's been a few years. It's been a few years since I've done that. So, World of Warcraft has been around long enough for me to have forgotten how to do these things.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, yeah.
Also, other stuff going on, since we're talking about stuff like that. Apparently, if you're watching streams like Warcraft Direct and so forth, there's neat rewards that you can get for World of Warcraft. There's a Blackrock Saber mount for the Horde, which means it's a cat, but it has Horde-style armor. And a Kaldorei Warwolf mount, which is for the Alliance, which is a wolf with Alliance-style armor. I don't even know what they're going to look like, and already I want them. And then there's many rewards for Rumble and Hearthstone, but I'm mostly interested in the cat and the wolf.
We do have pictures of them, though I realize now I forgot to link them, but it's really kind of the classic Horde wolf, but with night elf style armor and a kind of classic, night saber, except it has, spiky Horde armor. So it's like you can get your alternate faction mount here, and it's I think they're pretty neat. And all you have to do is actually, I don't have the details on this one, but it's a reward for watching Warcraft Direct, which is this week, tomorrow. By the time you listen to this, it will probably be in the past.
In the distant past. Well, okay, it'd be 4 days. Not that distant. Anyway, since we're talking about that, we've just covered that Warcraft Direct is this week, so we don't have to talk about that again, basically. You talked about that? Yeah. This is one that Liz put in here and said, I don't understand what's happening. So I read it and I don't understand what's happening. But Warcraft is coming to football. Collab between Blizzard and University of Washington Huskies football team to transform UW into the University of Warcraft for one game. Okay.
Stop!
Okay, I don't know who said stop. Was that you?
I don't get it.
I don't think any of us get it.
Essentially, they took the Husky mascot and just turned it into a wolfy-looking head, and that's all I can figure out what's going on.
Yeah, I don't know why they're doing it. I don't know why they're doing it with the Washington Huskies in particular. Crossovers like this are not outside of like territory that Blizzard's trod before, but like my hands are definitely up in the air here. Like, why?
So at Friday's home football game, there will be a custom University of Warcraft logo and digital takeover, and a Warcraft-themed fan zone featuring different characters from the game, as well as World of Warcraft mascots leading the team onto the field. So if you ever wanted, like, Thrall and Jaina running out in a crowd of football players, maybe?
So this is to me is a really good example of marketing as I've got a bowl of stuff. I'm just going to throw all of it directly at the wall.
That's what they did in Warcraft's like experience though. Like,
yeah, they did. That's true.
And I mean, if you walk around like the event, the anniversary event, like there's pieces of that all over the place. Like the Night Elf Mohawk just chilling up on a post. Like the Mountain Dew bots are back again. Like they're like the motorcycle stuff is back again. Like there was this weird time where WoW branched off into like every corner of like Americana and pop culture, and we're kind of back there right now. Like I don't understand why though. Like,
yeah, remember last week in last week's Blizzard Watch podcast, we talked about like all the different crossovers we're getting, like the Mountain Dew thing, which you mentioned, and like the Diablo jewelry crossover, and like it's like all of a sudden, and I'm going to say Microsoft probably has a hand in it, has decided to just throw World of Warcraft at everything because it's the 20th anniversary. I would guess that they're the reason why it's the University of Washington and not anything more local to the company. But yep, that's gonna be weird. There's gonna be a lot of confused Huskies fans trying to figure out what this orc is doing on the field.
Or they might just not notice.
Or not, yeah.
What gets me is I'm really hoping that somehow EverQuest will manage to get a college to show up and be their team, and then we can have that game.
The South Harmon Institute of Technology.
Okay. Don't know why, but I'll accept it.
That is a reference that I think Phil got. Some of you at home may get that one.
Yeah, if it's an EverQuest reference, I didn't get it.
It's a movie reference, a very, very bad comedy. Well, now that I've killed Matt's brain, I'm sorry.
I didn't kill my brain, just my momentum. But that covers the Warcraft stuff. We've got other stuff to talk about. I want to mention this one, even though it's like, I don't know. Overwatch 2 Classic will let us go back to the original game for 3 weeks, which is like, we knew some of this stuff was coming because we knew about them testing 6v6 again.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to say that this is separate from their 6v6 testing. They went out of their way to say they're still testing 6v6 as a permanent game mode, but this is Overwatch 2 Classic is a temporary classic style version of the game that you can play in Overwatch 2.
Just make it permanent.
Yeah, it's literally it's live now. It's lasts for 3 weeks.
You have like so many different varieties of WoW Classic now. People want the thing that they first started playing. They just want it. Give it to them. Just give it to them. Give them this.
Yeah,
you're even running it, so you know you can run it. Just run it.
Yeah, and I mean, that's what a lot of people have just been asking for since Overwatch 2 released, and since they changed it from 6v6 to the 5v5, like, people have been begging for the 6v6.
Plus, it's not just that, though. It's everything. It's the original heroes, original abilities, original maps, original skins. Like, I feel like you might as well just make that something people can pick instead of Overwatch 2.
Yeah.
Just let them...
It seems like it would be something really easy. Just make it an arcade mode. Just make it something, okay, click, I'm going to play Classic today because that's what I want to play. And give players options. But they announced this, and I was super interested. It's like, oh, that is really cool. These Classic game modes give us more options and let us play in different ways. And then I was like, oh, it's a limited time event that lasts 3 weeks. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's like, and there are ways to do limited time events that I actually like. I think like when WoW did its Pandemonium thing, the World of Warcraft Pandaria, fast mode essentially, that was good. A lot of people liked it. I could see doing that for Overwatch, but I feel like putting out an Overwatch Classic essentially just for a few weeks. I don't know. Why not just keep it going? You've got it's like you're going to be running this, so now we know you can run it. You didn't throw away the original stuff, so just put it up somewhere. Let people opt into it. Let people subscribe to it or buy it or whatever. I don't know. That is my feeling on it.
I don't disagree.
Phil, you haven't actually said anything about this one. You might not care, but I figure I'll ask in case you have an opinion.
Yeah, I'm not like highly invested in Overwatch, but my understanding is that the transition from Overwatch to Overwatch 2 was, shall we say, not popular. And so I feel like giving them back the classic game for 3 weeks is almost like an insult. Hey, remember this thing you liked? Here it is. Have some FOMO with it.
It's sort of like saying that the transit of the Titanic across the Atlantic had a few speed bumps. In terms
there was an obstacle or two.
Yes. we had a difference of agreement with some ice.
I think the best outcome for this would possibly be that this is like a test run to make sure it works. Like, if they test this for 3 weeks and they go, okay, Overwatch Classic is stable, then in a few weeks, after it ends, they go, okay, we've shored up some bugs from the event. Overwatch Classic is now a permanent game mode. Have fun. Like, that I think would be the ideal outcome from this little event.
I would agree.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of Blizzard's post, they did explicitly say, yeah, this is just limited time. It's not coming back, but we'll keep an eye out for feedback. So it's possible that if everyone is like, yes, this is awesome, this is all we want to play ever again, that maybe. So here's exactly what they said. In a Q&A at the bottom of the post, it's, will Overwatch Classic ever return? Is this just a one-time thing? And from Blizzard, while we're not planning for this to be a single event, we will be measuring player response to inform our future plans. Actually, now that I read that, that's a little backwards. But so if you like this, go and tell Blizzard, because it just makes sense. Just add this as an arcade mode. Why not? It seems like it's really easy. But instead, they're treating it like something like Junkenstein's Revenge, which comes up every October as a holiday event. But this feels like something different. You could just put it in there, and it would be there. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I feel like we're all basically saying the same thing at this point. So now we will move on to some other stuff, mainly Diablo stuff, because, it's me. I love Diablo. I want to read this one first, though, because I kind of find it a little funny. That the Midwinter Blade event is coming back later this year. And it's like, were we not supposed to? Like, I felt surprised that they needed to announce it like this. But I guess it's worth doing so. I liked Midwinter Blade, so I'm totally happy to see it come back. I just was surprised that it wasn't already assumed to be coming back, if that makes sense.
I mean, we're sitting here talking about limited time events, and you kind of never know, I guess. And also, holiday events are a little new for Diablo, and the Halloween event this year did not do very well in that you could log in and completely not notice that there was a Halloween event going on.
Well, it's because they did. What was the event? The event wasn't even very eventful.
If you ran a nightmare dungeon and you clicked a shrine, it had a higher chance of spawning a treasure goblin or the butcher. And it's like, okay, but it's nowhere, there's nothing anywhere else in the game. And also there's like one shrine per dungeon, and I click it and maybe I get a goblin or a butcher who does not drop good loot. I mean, it felt extremely unrewarding.
Yeah, I didn't even bother with, and I was playing a lot of Diablo. I was just like, no,
in their defense, it's kind of hard to make a spooky event in Diablo.
Well, yeah, it is sort of like that's the flavor everything is. I do get that.
Frankly, Midwinter Blight is kind of spooky. It's like piles. It's like a skull Christmas tree kind of thing. I don't know.
I feel like Midwinter Blight feels like a Danzig album. Like it's kind of going a little too hard on the skulls and so forth. But at the same time, it's endearing. Like, you know, it's like they're like bedazzling everything, except instead of bedazzling them, they're sculling them. So yeah, I liked Midwinter Blight for that. I also liked that it was like its tongue would have been in its cheek, but since everything is a skull, there was no cheek and no tongue. But if they had the tongue, it would be in the cheek that it didn't have. But the Halloween thing this year did not feel like anything. And it felt disappointing for me that we couldn't have had like a real butcher themed Halloween thing. Like,
cool.
Just go for it. Go for a like real butcher themed thing. Like the butcher is back and now he's a world boss. And there's like mini butchers that he spawn off of him. And these butchers, it's like, what's going on with all these butchers? And just something, you know? And I know that they have the ability to do it, but I don't know if, quite frankly, I feel like working on 2 expansions means that they don't really have the manpower to do this as much as they might want, especially since the expansion was literally coming out a month before Halloween.
Yeah, so. And that's kind of a shame. It really feels like there is a lot you could do, but the seasons feel pretty uneventful. The events have not knocked it out of the park. I mean, Midwinter Blight was an interesting event.
The New Year's one wasn't the one they did for Chinese New Year was kind of fun, but kind of also sort of like just click on something. And I really feel like we have too many just things. Yeah, absolutely.
And earn reputation. And
yeah,
it's like, hey, do you want a new rep grind just in time for the holidays? No? Well, you're gonna get one.
It's the most magical tasks you'll be doing.
Well, you know, maybe we can hold out for that butcher event to be next year, because January 26th to February 2nd marks National Meat Week. and if you're going to have a butcher-themed event, why not on the week celebrating fresh meat?
I heard Joe make a noise, but then we kept talking, so he didn't get to say it. So, Joe?
I did not. I actually didn't make a noise.
All right, well. Anyway, I want to read this whole thing because sometimes Liz writes really cool things in the notes, and I want to read them to you so you understand how cool Liz's notes are. Diablo 4 had a very low news campfire chat today about the Season 6 mid-season patch, which will provide for a lot of buffs for non-Spiritborn classes, but expect the Spiritborn to maintain their significant power advantage. Shrines being buffed to scale with player power, catch-up mechanics being added for Eternal Realm players coming back for the X-Pack, something that feels like it should have been added with the X-Pack. Look for patch notes later this week. I love this because it's true, but also because it really kind of captures how weird the campfire chats have felt lately. Like, so I kind of wanted to throw that out there for people to hear. Go ahead, Liz. I hear you.
This one felt a little extra weird because they talked about the mid-season patch, but they're also like, there's going to be a blog post about this next week. Oh, also, we're having another live stream next week that's going to talk about Season 7. Oh, and also there's going to be a Season 7 PTR. It's going to be after Thanksgiving. And it's like, it was an announcement of future announcements. Like, there was very little information, but we all got together to watch this live stream so they could tell us we will get more information later. And it was
Yeah, but you've been noticing that for like the past couple of years. I remember we talked about like back in, I think 2019 even, you were like, why is it all the news about news that's going to happen?
Yeah.
Like, why is so many announcements of announcements?
I hate that. I hate an announcement of an announcement. Just tell me the news. I just want the news. But usually Diablo live streams, I don't always like them, but usually they have something to say. And this one felt like it very little to say, except there would be more to say in the future. I think they're kind of cramming here to get stuff done before
before
Thanksgiving.
Break. Yeah.
But kind of like, why did you have a campfire chat today just to tell us you're having a campfire chat next week where you're going to actually tell us things? And it's just kind of like,
hey, we're having a party tonight to talk about the party we're going to have next week.
And it also feels weird. They're telling us about the mid-season patch today, but next week they're telling us about Season 7, which Season 7 is at least a month away. I'd have to double check on the dates there, but it's like, you're really compressing the timeline here.
Well, if the PTR for Season 7 is after Thanksgiving, then it's at least a month away, if not more, because, I mean, depending on whether or not they actually do anything with the feedback from the PTR. But yeah, it is interesting and odd to me how they approach this stuff sometimes. Final Blizzard related thing for this week, because it's as we just pointed out, they keep telling us that they're going to tell us about things. Both StarCraft and StarCraft 2 are on PC Game Pass now. I believe they've already been on Xbox Game Pass for a little bit, but they're definitely on PC Game Pass.
They're on Game Pass, but they're PC only. That's why I noted the PC thing. Right, cool. You can't play them on your Xbox.
I thought I saw one that was, but that makes sense because they didn't really have controls for that. I am fascinated by the fact that Microsoft seems really bullish on StarCraft.
Oh yeah, I think they are.
Just it's interesting to me. Go ahead.
I think it has to do with the idea that, like, and we've talked about this before, that there's a potential resurgence of RTSs coming back. And where would you rather be? Would you rather be waiting for former Blizzard devs who worked on stuff like Warcraft to, get theirs out there, which, several of them are working on or have put out? Or would you like to take something like StarCraft and try to get it back in everybody's hands and under everybody's radar, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and especially if you feel strongly about it, proving that there's a hunger for it is a real easy way of trying to get a new project greenlit. Especially, again, if you're banking on RTSs making a comeback to sort of that cyclical popularity of games that we see. So, I mean, I can't really say I blame them. I think it's kind of, and I personally think it would be kind of cool, right? Like, I miss RTSs. I miss when they were, like, all around and done with good quality. And let's be honest, like, StarCraft and Warcraft were two of the greatest RTS franchises ever created. So if I was Microsoft, I'd absolutely want to be banking on this or trying to get it to take off again.
Okay. I just find it interesting. I don't really know what it signifies. I keep looking and going, okay, are they actually going to do new StarCraft? And I know we heard about them doing yet another first-person shooter with StarCraft. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, guys, please stop trying to do a first-person shooter with StarCraft. You've managed to successfully kill 2 of them. Why are you going for 3? Do you just feel empty without a game to cancel in a few months? Like, what's the deal? Well, we canceled that survival game, so we don't have anything to cancel right now. Why don't we start making a StarCraft first-person shooter? Yeah, we could cancel that real good. So yeah, I don't know what's up with that, but at the same time, I would be down for. I've said before, I would love to see StarCraft in other genres. I honestly kind of wish a little while ago, and Riot eventually kind of stopped doing it, but they had licensed other studios to make games based on their properties. I played one of them, which was, I think, The Ruined King, which was really good. It was an Airship Syndicate game. I feel really bad for stuff that's been happening to Airship Syndicate lately, but I did really like that game. I kind of wish Blizzard could do that, like, maybe have Obsidian come in and do a true RPG using, say, the Warcraft setting or in StarCraft or what have you. Just because I'd like to see what other people would do with these things. Not necessarily because I don't think Blizzard could do it, but just because I'd like to see other people spin on it. I definitely feel like StarCraft is possibly the best franchise for anything like that, for the very simple reason that there isn't currently anything going on with it, as far as we know. They could be working on it, but who knows? Yeah, that's my take on it. I don't know if Phil has anything else he wants to say before we move on, although there's not too much more to talk about.
Yeah, I'll note that more StarCraft is more likely than it was when it was just Blizzard. Phil Spencer at Microsoft is a huge StarCraft fan. I would wager he at least has a hand in this being available now.
Yeah, I would think.
I'd love to see some more StarCraft of some kind. Like I wouldn't be wild about a first-person shooter, but just about anything else, I'd be down for more StarCraft. Even especially like another StarCraft RTS. Like Joe said, I have so many hours in StarCraft on my PC back at my parents' house.
Yeah, my wife, who before I even knew her, played original StarCraft into the ground. Like she was killing Korean people like just nonstop. Like in the game, she just played forever and did really well. And there hasn't been a StarCraft for her since, because StarCraft 2 didn't jive with her way of approaching the game. So yeah, I'd like to see them do another RTS, but I would really love to see them do a 4X. I really feel like they could jump to a 4X real easy.
And that would be interesting with a game like StarCraft, where you're already starting in the future. So what's the future like in 100 years, in 1,000 years? I mean, you could do some weird things with that.
And you could do the whole thing, like StarCraft already has the whole thing about getting reresources. We're out of Vespene gas and all that. You could make it into a bigger part of the game fairly easily, and have it also be like, there's warring factions. Let's run with it. Let's actually do something with this warring faction idea. I just feel like 4X would be if you were going to go from RTS to something else, 4X would be a logical stop. The other possibility is, Total War, especially the Warhammer ones. That's an RTS. We don't have any problem admitting that, right?
No, I don't think. Well, I will actually. I think it's more of an army sim than an RTS. I play a lot of it.
If it's an army sim, then let's do an army sim for StarCraft.
Yeah,
if you think a game, there's just so many different games that would work for StarCraft. But that doesn't mean first-person shooter couldn't work. I just feel like they must have angered, they must have angered some wandering mendicant or something. Because man, they have bad luck with keeping those games going. In terms of coming up with the shooters. But all right, I've been clipping out some actual questions from the Discord, but before we do that, we do have some other games to talk about. I haven't gotten to play Dragon Age Veilguard, so I'm literally living vicariously through other people who have, so I want to hear about people's second impressions if anybody has one. Liz, have you been playing it?
Yes.
Talk. I will not be able to get this game. I will not be able to get this game this year, so if you've got stuff, tell me, please.
I think I've put 95 hours into the game so far, and it released a week and a half ago. I do, after putting a lot of hours in, I understand some of the criticism I've seen of it, but I love it. This game is Liz catnip. Because it's a very story forward game. It's very much characters and relationships between characters. It has tons and mountains of dialogue between characters. So if you go back to your base, you'll see your companions have moved around while you were gone, and you'll walk up to them and they'll be having conversations with each other. I have done this a lot, and I have yet to find anyone repeat anything. So I don't know how much dialogue there is that's just casual conversations your companions are having, but a lot. And when you take them out on adventures with you, they talk to each other a lot more than they have in previous games.
Yeah.
I have yet to find any repetition in this. I imagine there is a mountain of dialogue that I have not seen, and I am here for it. I am here for every little bit of it. I think it's a remarkably story-focused game because it is more about making choices, but making the choices that you want to make and deciding how you are going to approach a situation. And it's not so much, I have 27 charisma so I can have this conversation. It's I'm going to do this quest and I'm going to decide I'm going to talk to this person instead of fight them. That's actually one of the very first things you do in the game. It's you go into a fight and it's do I want to talk these people down or do I want to fight them? And you can do either one. And it's not you're really strong, so you're going to be really good at fighting them. And it's not you're really charismatic, you're going to be really good at talking to them. It's how do you want to approach the story? Frankly, it feels like a choose your own adventure book a little bit. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think
absolutely.
I was going to say, I think I was reading that there's more branching dialogue paths in this game than any of the previous ones. And I believe it. I absolutely believe it. Because like your bond and choices you make, there's a lot more of the three-way, like, you know, this will have consequences choices in this than I remember seeing in other games. So I definitely agree with you there.
And I think it's a little, I want to call it revolutionary. Maybe y'all will have different opinions. But if you want to do this game, but you're bad at combat, you don't enjoy the action-oriented combat system it has right now, you can put it on what is called Storyteller mode. Storyteller is basically the easy mode for the game, except it is not just easy, it is super easy. It is completely easy, and if you set it to Storyteller mode and you go into the options, you can actually turn off death. So you can literally approach it where you just go in and you want to experience the story, and you go in and you have little combats, but they aren't a big deal. They're just part of your ongoing narrative. You cannot die, and you explore, you do puzzles, you have conversations with people, and that is the game. If you want that game experience, that is the game you can play. And I think that's kind of astonishing in a big budget AAA RPG. That does have some really fun, in my opinion, action combat, but you can also say, no, that's not my bag. I'm just here for the story. I'm just here to meet all these cool people. And I think it's great.
Yeah, the accessibility is big there, and we talk about this a lot, because, like, even if combat is your thing, but you just find yourself in a position where you can't do it anymore, because it is a very action game, right? It's not turn-based at all. And so you spend a lot of time, mashing buttons and trying to time dodges and if not dodges, then timing defenses or parries and things like that, and manipulating the ability wheel, and that can be a lot for some folks. So giving the option for folks to just experience the story, which is really well written, or at least maybe I'm enamored with it, but right now, from everything I've seen for it, I've really enjoyed the writing, the storytelling. I enjoy the characters. I hate the fact that normally, and this is going to be a weird complaint, so I apologize. In these types of games, in Dragon Effect games, I usually a front runner of who my character is going to like romance. There's a very clear winner, and in this one, I'm sitting there being torn between two who are hitting very, very distinct me personality trait triggers. And I'm sitting here, and you meet them early, so it's not them. I'm not going to go into too many details about their personality for folks that haven't played it yet, but like Belisara and Hardin hit two very distinct personality things in me. And I'm torn. I can't decide. And it's like, no, why you do this to me, game? And it's the first time in this type of game that I really have felt torn between it. And both characters are incredibly well written. Their voice actors do an amazing job. Even the NPCs that give you quests, there's actual I'm trying to think how to phrase this. In Dragon Age Inquisition, there was very good voice acting, but not all of it was very good. Some of it was very robotic, and some of it was very phoned in. I have yet to find that here, right? I and maybe that's just me. Maybe it's just the honeymoon period with the game, because I'm not nearly as far in as Liz is. But I haven't found anybody that just sounds like they're phoning it in, right? They're not Peter Dinklage in, with
a wizard comes from
Destiny.
the moon.
Yeah, right.
No, I've even found that even minor NPCs shopkeepers who are talking to you while you're browsing their stuff.
I need to go through the voice acting list. I'm relatively confident. I gotta poke Sissy Jones, but I'm convinced she's one of the shopkeepers.
There is this one shopkeeper right outside the base for the Shadow Dragons in Menrathis who you're looking through his wares and he's going, "Don't touch the treasure." And he's just peddling absolute garbage, but it's just, he says it with such emotion, and it's it caught me off guard. I was like, what is he talking to me? I'm just looking at his stuff, man.
And some of them have interactions with when you mouse over or move your cursor over specific items, which is wild. They'll have specific triggers and dialogue that the the shopkeep will say. Like,
there is a bar that you will go to several times over the course of the story. I'm in Rathus, and one of the bartenders is actually a mixologist and will like talk about the drinks that she has for sale as you mouse over them. Snootily tells you as you start to interact with her that the other bartenders serve drinks, but I craft experiences.
Man, such a Seattle thing.
You're killing me right now, Smalls. You're all killing me. I'm sitting there going, oh, I'll just be playing this game that I have from last year over and over again.
I will say I am with Joe 100% on the I probably have the weirdest perspective on this because I haven't played a Dragon Age game before this one, although I am intimately familiar with them due to spending way too much time on the Dragon Age wiki for fun. But then, like, I just came off Mass Effect and the whole trilogy, and then like a week later picked up Veilguard. Didn't mean to, but then everybody in our WoW guild was playing it. I'm like, well, shit, I got the day off. But the it's interesting because I'm in the same boat Joe was, where I did not know who I was going to romance, and as we kept picking up additional party members, it just got worse.
Yeah,
to the point where I let an NPC decide for me. Like one of the NPCs propositioned me very strongly after a flirty dialogue option, and I kind of looked over at my wife because she's locked in on these stories as well, and I'm like, do I go for this one? And she's like, yeah, do it. So I kind of let an NPC and my wife pick the option for me.
My wife played Dragon Age 2 before I did. It was the deal we had that I let her play it before I touched it, so she would not get spoiled watching me play it. And when I was playing, I was starting my character. I was playing a wizard for my first playthrough before I realized that meant I had Carver for the whole game. So I was playing my wizard, going through town. I met up with Anders, and I was like starting to do the flirty talk with him. My wife literally smacked the controller out of my hands. She was like, "No, do not romance. He will break your heart. Don't do it."
As someone who romanced Anders on my first Dragon Age 2 playthrough, I understand the nature of bad choices in Dragon Age.
We are all bad idea bears in the end.
Like, seriously, it was just one of those moments where I'm like, okay, I guess I'm not romancing that guy. So yeah. But
you're better off. You're better off.
I do think we should also mention this really briefly. There's no DLC coming for Dragon Age the Veilguard, and the reason for that is because the entire company is essentially working on the new Mass Effect game now. They've effectively just said, okay, we got Veilguard out, people either like it or they don't. It's getting some positive reviews, so now we're all switching over to get Mass Effect done. And
yeah, I'm not mad at it.
Meanwhile, there's a patch that came out for Dragon Age Veilguard that's essentially got a little N7 surprise in it. You can tell us about that one, Liz?
It's just a bug fix patch, which I do not know how many people like did it. I know PC players have been having trouble. Did it, Phil? Did you notice the gameplay get smoother after the patch?
On my PC, not so much. It definitely runs better on my Steam Deck, so I feel like there was some more optimization there. It did not fix the only mechanical bug I've noticed in the game, but that's okay because it's a mechanical bug in the player's favor.
So yeah, it was just a little bug fix patch, and the team is still going to do stuff like this, bug fixes, things of that nature. But yeah, they're all working on Mass Effect. And in 7 Day, all we got this year, in 7 Day, of course, being the grand celebration of Mass Effect, all we got this year was a little present in Dragon Age Veilguard, which you can log on and find shepherd-themed armor that you can pick up for your rook. So, I think it's pretty cool looking. I mean, I'm into it. I've seen a picture of Joe's character wearing it. It looks good. It's a long black. It's a long black coat with a red and white stripe down the arm. So, and there's another more warrior-looking look that is black and red, but it doesn't have the stripe down the arm. So I think it's a little less iconic.
Yeah, it's got like some weird arm ties going on. It doesn't have the long coat. I'm actually using that one. I'm actually using that one for my rook's casual wear instead.
This is reminding me very much of how the only good DLC that came out before they scrapped Kingdoms of Amalur was the BioWare tie-in that gave you Shepherd's armor and an Omniblade.
It's also funny that the pre-order bonus for Veilguard was the name is completely was the Blood Dragon armor. You got 3 variations of the Blood Dragon armor, which was of course armor in Mass Effect 2 and 3 that
but it was it was also original DLC for Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I had it in both those games. So yeah, that's kind of fun.
It made the jump to Mass Effect, and now it's made the jump back along with these looks. So it's kind of cool. The little tiny itty bitty crossovers. But yeah, I'm into it. I'm into it. That's how could I not?
I was gonna say, like, and for some folks, I've heard some folks being upset that there is no DLC coming for Veilguard. But I will say this, and I get it. But one thing that I do want to make sure that I like put out there is that at the end of the day, if you do just the main quest, and I do mean just the main quest and the major side quest, you're at 60 hours. That doesn't include everything else. And it's a long game.
Liz just really wants to sit down and have a party with her friends like Citadel. It's fine.
That's one of the best DLCs they ever made for any game. So yeah,
it really was.
Give me the fan service expansion. I don't care.
So
even the part of it that was an actual mission was great. I took Liz's advice on when to do the DLC, which she thankfully told me when things would be best without being spoilery about them, and that was saving that one for last was definitely top notch. I'm a little sad there won't be, but then just with all the party banter in here, like I want to start doing quests that I know I did before, but with different combinations of characters, because they also will like comment to each other based on where they are in their own story setup.
Yeah.
Like there's a couple of your companions who, if you don't romance one of them, will start like they become a thing. And like if you take them out earlier before that actually happens, like you can actually like see it develop because they're like subtly flirting with each other in inter-party banter while you're just walking around. It's really cute. I love it.
That's
not
Jennifer Hepler.
Subtly flirting.
That's Jennifer Hepler. Flirting. Because Jennifer Hepler put that in Inquisition as well. That's definitely Jennifer Hepler.
Yeah, well, one of the companions is subtle, and the other one is not.
Yeah, it depends on how you define subtle.
I think he's talking to you.
I'm saying your bad idea boyfriend has no subtlety in his soul.
No, he's very bad at things. He's
but bad in the best ways for you.
Yes.
Specifically for you.
Well, see, I was going on a trend to find the person who was the worst idea to date in this game, and I picked one, but then I really pissed him off. And so I had to change my mind, and I think my next choice was worse. So here I am making my terrible relationship choices virtually. Yep, that's the thing.
Yeah, at least with that, if they start breaking your heart, you can like walk away from the console or computer or whatever. Yeah.
I will say that one thing that I will note for this particular game, this is the first time that I have bought extra hardware in order to play this game.
Really?
I was commenting on this in Guild. I'll comment on it here a little bit. So I had to get it. I was trying to play it on the PC, and playing it on the PC was fine, but I couldn't really get it to run well. So the problem that I ran into was, do I keep it on the PC and if they patch it, or do I kill it from that and then, try to move it to something else, move it to the PlayStation or something like that. So I moved it to the PlayStation. And the problem that I have is that my partner will occasionally nest on the case off. When they do this, which is not a problem, but when they do this, it will take over the TV, the only TV we have in the house. And so that I cannot possibly, play while she's watching TV. So I went and bought a PlayStation Portal.
You might be the only person I know to admit to buying a PlayStation Portal.
Apparently they're selling like hotcakes. They are doing absolute gangbusters in 2024, apparently. To the point where it was hard to find one in stock somewhere.
I wonder if it's all people now trying to play Veilguard while their partners watch TV.
Maybe, but like I went out and bought it, and it works pretty damn good. And also because now I can play it when I'm at the shop and doing other things. So, there's that.
I'm happy that we talked about this because I wanted to. All right. Let's see what we're doing on time. We've got enough time. And then some. I got a question from Daikaiju here, and I think it's going to be a pretty long question. I mean, the question itself is not that long, and we may have answered it somewhere else. I don't know, but I grabbed it. It was there. My current belief is that since the events of D3 and Reaper of Souls, the high heavens and burning hells are freaked out about humanity finally coming into its own and deciding it's had enough of both sides' interference. Hence the reason the high heavens have walled themselves off and the burning hells getting more aggressive about corrupting humanity to their side. Thoughts? I have a lot of thoughts, and I'm sure we'll be talking about this again on Lore Watch at some point, but anyone else want to go before I do? Because I don't want to monopolize the conversation. Plus, I sound like a raspy, corpse. I sound like Withers from Baldur's Gate at this point. Joe? Phil?
I'll let Joe speak to it if he wants to. I haven't, I admit I have not played the expansion for D4, so I don't know where the story is right now as regards Hell and so forth. I mean, the assertion makes sense. I know that my understanding is that in the Diablo universe, humanity is kind of viewed as either a useful tool or a big mistake, depending on who's trying to use them or kill them at any given time. So the idea that humanity might finally be regaining enough of their Nephilim heritage to maybe tell both sides to go away. I can see where maybe that would bother both sides of the eternal conflict.
Joe?
So maybe. There's definitely something to it where I think that what's happened with all of humanity, especially in regards to the rest of the world, is definitely off-put the angels in some way. But I don't know that it is necessarily that they are freaked out that it's finally coming into its own, because, again, Tyrael's there, and Tyrael went back home. And Tyrael is our friend, and he kind of wants us to be able to do our thing. Because we're the only ones that can actually solve the eternal conflict and actually, maybe fix things. I think more they're trying to get their ducks in a row and their house in order. We talked about this on the Diablo lore watches, and I highly encourage you go back and listen to them, if you can, Daikaiju. What Diablo did to the high heavens was bad. Like, colossally bad. Very, 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 very ungood. We don't know what damage was done to the Crystal Arch. The other thing that Matt posited that I think is interesting is we don't know, because Diablo got essentially taken out in heaven. Did Diablo get forced through the Crystal Arch? All we know in the expansion is that Mephisto's brothers are coming. That's it. That's all he says. He doesn't give any more details than that. Mephisto was reforming in hell. We haven't heard anything from Diablo since the events of Diablo 3. And we know that angels can be reborn in hell. So maybe, just maybe, they shut the door because Diablo came out as an angel. And they got to deal with that, because that's going to be a thing. That's my opinion.
I am all in for Diablius.
We just have not heard anything from the heavens in Diablo 4, so we don't know what they're doing. But also, angels are not our friends. Traditionally, Tyrael is our friend. Angels are not our friends.
True.
And some angels actively dislike us. We certainly saw Inarius, who...
Are you implying that Inarius didn't have our best intentions in mind?
I don't think
we were fodder.
Why? I think we were helping him towards his own ends, which did not work out well for him. Angels in the Diablo universe, angels do not implicitly care about humans. Angels are not here to help us or do anything for us. So it is more common for angels to lock themselves off from Sanctuary than not. And this just kind of seems a continuation of that. The demons are taking advantage because the angels are staying out of it. And so it's giving the demons an opportunity to make a power grab, and the angels are like, yeah, human sanctuary. But I don't know. We don't have any actual insight into what's going on in the heavens, right? could be exactly as Joe says. There's chaos up there after all the damage Diablo caused. Maybe Diablo is still there in some form. It's just it's interesting. So we also don't know about any of the other primevals except Mephisto. We don't know where anyone is or what anyone's doing. There's a lot that could be happening, and we don't know most of it.
I'm going to throw 3 things out.
Mm-hmm.
First is based on a spoiler. So if you have not played the end of Diablo 4 Vessel of Hatred, you will get a spoiler here. So Phil, I suggest you put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 if you care about that, and then we'll hopefully somebody will let you know when you can start talking again. But this is the first one. We've seen that the demons are really good at using things like faith and people who appear to be holy or sacred in some way to their own ends. And we're seeing that very much. We saw that in Diablo 2. The entire Quahagen is really secretly Mephisto deal from Diablo 2. That's something Mephisto has gone for again in Diablo 4, but he's scaling it up. Rather than, oh, well, I've corrupted the representative of this religion, he's now corrupted the actual body of the original founder of said religion. So he's taking it up a notch. It would be like going from possessing the Pope to possessing Jesus, essentially. And that's where they're going with that storyline. So that's one thing to keep in mind. The second thing is, when we've seen angels become demons in the hells, they've completely switched their ethos. Like, they've become demonic in their aspect and nature. So if Diablo was reborn through the Crystal Arch, it's entirely possible he's now good, or at least good with the air quotes that we would use for any other angel. Because keep in mind, Imperius and Imperius, Inarius, and Malthael, if you want to talk about angels who don't like us.
Yeah.
So there's all that stuff too. But third and most interesting to me is this real simple idea about the whole thing. At the end of Reaper of Souls, it's our buddy Tyrael who wets himself in terror at the sight of us. Tyrael, who likes humans and wants to bring them justice, is like, oh, the Nephilim can defeat the most powerful of heaven or hell. What will happen when this mortal being decides to flex its incredible power? And I'm going to point out to everybody, we have not heard bibbly squat about what happened to the Nephilim. Nothing. There is nothing in game about what happened to that guy or girl. There's characters that could be the Nephilim if you played as them. Like, there's Johanna. She gets mentioned, specifically that she's dead. But we don't really know what happened to the Nephilim, because we don't have a canonical Nephilim to know what happened to them. And that's something that I don't think will be picked up on. I don't think they're going to do anything about that. But if they did, what would that mean for this argument? Because keep in mind, if you want to show that both the angels and demons should be afraid of humanity, the Nephilim is your go-to example. Because that person walked out of the woods, decided they were going to go look at a falling star, and the next thing we know, they've killed multiple demon lords. And then, as an encore, after they killed the biggest of the demon lords that literally had all the other demon lords nested inside of it like Matryoshka dolls, for an encore, they killed the former Archangel of Wisdom, who decided he was now the Archangel of Death, and him possessed by all the demons at once. He broke the Black Soulstone and basically used all their power too. And this mortal still beat him. So if they're afraid because of that guy, or girl, again, I should say, afraid of them. And that, to me, that's fascinating to me, because I really feel like it's something that we don't get much, why does Lilith, when she comes here, she picks you, even though you basically turn on her almost immediately. Like, you get the blood petals, you don't like go, oh, well, Lilith had a point. At no point do you do that. Even when we, the players, might have been doing that. I mean, I was like going, come on. And of these two, between Lilith and Inarius, I definitely don't like Inarius more. But that's never really brought into it. So I do find myself wondering if that's going to be part of the plot of either the next expansion or possibly something after that. Because, I mean, the last expansion did pretty well. I wouldn't be surprised the next one does pretty well. And as long as the expansions are doing well, they're going to keep putting them out, especially now that it's Microsoft at the helm. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I definitely think they could do that. But at this point, I guess we're We still have a little time, but no, actually, we're in a good place to stop. Here's where I turn first to Joe, but actually, Liz, you did it at the beginning of the show, but do you want to do it again just so we make sure we catch people?
Sure. Just a reminder that Blizzard Watch is made possible due to listeners like you. It is your support that lets us keep this site and this podcast going. It lets us do more content, more podcasts, more things that I hope you want to hear. And if you are a supporter, please, and if you aren't a supporter, tell us if there's something you would like us to podcast about. You can ask us podcast questions on Discord in the Patreon queue, and podcast questions, if you are a Patreon supporter, are in the queue and podcast questions if you are a non-Patreon supporter. We love you both. If you give us questions or if you suggest a show topic, we will try to do it if we can. But our Patreon support has fallen a little lower this month, so if you are able to toss in $1, a couple of dollars, whatever you're comfortable with, it really helps us. Every little bit helps keep the site going. For $3, you get early access to these podcasts, along with our exclusive pre-show of us rambling about whatever nerdy topic we have in mind that week. And at $5, you get an ads-free site experience, which is pretty nice because ads are ads, but ads help keep the site going. But more than ads, you keep the site going. So if you can support us, please chip in. Every little bit helps. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz. Joe, now I've tagged you.
Well, I don't have to. Liz already did it.
Right. I'll just do my extra then.
Doing it live.
Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you to Phil for coming along and really helping out with just being someone else say something so I can drink because my throat's killing me. And also for the pre-show, because that was a lot of fun. In point of fact, I really enjoy the pre-show when we do RPG topics. So thank you very much, Phil. Thank you, of course.
To be on.
Yeah, thank you, of course, to Liz and Joe for basically being the backbone that keeps the site going and keeps this podcast going. Thank you both so much, and thank you to you, I want to say viewers at home, but only some of you are viewing. A lot of you are listening, a lot more than are viewing. But regardless,
listeners.
Yes, listeners makes more sense. Thank you guys so much, too, because that means we have a show to do and people to listen to it, and that's always great. This has been the Blizzard Watch podcast, and we'll be back next week.